The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Maya pushed the squeaky shopping cart through the narrow aisles of the discount grocery store. Her 2-year-old son Alex sat in the cart, his tiny legs swinging back and forth as he played with a toy car that had seen better days. The wheels were missing and the paint was chipped, but it kept him happy during their weekly shopping trips. Maya's stomach growled loudly, reminding her that she hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. She tried to ignore it, focusing instead on the mental list she had made at home. Diapers were at the top. Alex was down to his last 3, and she knew they wouldn't make it through the night without accidents. She pulled out her worn leather wallet, the one her grandmother had given her years ago when life was simpler. The leather was cracked now, and the zipper stuck sometimes. Inside, she counted the crumpled bills one more time, even though she already knew exactly how much was there. $8.47, that was it. That was all the money she had left in the world. The baby aisle stretched before them like a challenge. Rows and rows of products that other parents seemed to buy without thinking twice. Formula. Baby food, toys, clothes, and there in the middle, the diapers. Maya's eyes scanned the prices, her heart sinking with each number she read. The name brand diapers were $12. The store brand was $9.50. Even the cheapest generic pack cost $7.99. "Mama, hungry," Alex said, pointing to his mouth with his chubby finger. Maya's chest tightened. She had been hoping the crackers from yesterday would hold him over until dinner. But toddlers didn't understand about empty wallets and overdue bills. She knelt down to his level, brushing a strand of dark hair from his forehead. "I know, baby. We'll eat soon, okay?" She stood up and reached for the cheapest pack of diapers, the generic brand with the plain white package. $7.99. That would leave her with 48 cents. Not enough for bread, not enough for milk, not enough for anything, really. But Alex needed these diapers more than she needed food. Maya thought back to 3 weeks ago when everything started falling apart. She had been working at a cleaning service, making just enough to cover their tiny apartment rent and basic needs. It wasn't much, but it was steady. Then Alex got sick with a fever that wouldn't break. She had to miss 4 days of work to take care of him, sitting by his bedside, giving him medicine every few hours, and praying he would get better. The doctor visit had cost $60 at the walk-in clinic. The medicine was another $20. When her paycheck came, it was almost $100 short because of the missed days. The cleaning service didn't offer sick leave, especially not for part-time workers like her. "I'm sorry, Maya," her supervisor had said over the phone. "We need people who can be here consistently. We can't hold your position anymore." Just like that, she was unemployed again. She had filled out applications at every store, restaurant, and office within walking distance. Some places said they weren't hiring. Others said they would call back, but they never did. A few wanted her to start immediately, but she couldn't afford childcare, and she had no one to watch Alex. The sound of other shoppers moving through the store brought Maya back to the present. She picked up the pack of diapers, feeling the weight of it in her hands. Such a simple thing, but so important. She remembered when she was pregnant, making lists of everything she would need for the baby. Back then, she had a job at a small office, filing papers and answering phones. The pay wasn't great, but it was enough. She had savings, plans, dreams of giving her child everything she never had. Things changed when Alex's father left. He said he wasn't ready to be a parent, that he was too young for such responsibility. Maya was the same age, but somehow she didn't have the luxury of choice. She had tried to manage on her own, but babies were expensive. Daycare costs, doctor visits, clothes that Alex outgrew every few months. And then the office where she worked closed down due to budget cuts. She had applied for assistance programs, but there was so much paperwork, so many appointments, and such long waiting lists. The food stamps helped, but they didn't cover diapers or soap or the other things babies needed. She sold her car to pay rent for 2 months, but that money was gone now. Maya wheeled the cart toward the front of the store, past the pharmacy, where she couldn't afford Alex's vitamins, past the deli where the smell of fresh bread made her stomach ache, past the produce section where she used to buy fresh fruits and vegetables. Now she shopped mostly in the clearance section, looking for dented cans and expired items that were still safe to eat. The checkout lines were busy, filled with families doing their weekly shopping. Maya watched them load their carts with groceries, not seeming to worry about prices or count every dollar. She wondered what it would feel like to shop without fear, to grab what you needed without calculating and recalculating in line ahead. Of her, a well-dressed man was buying what looked like ingredients for a fancy dinner party. Organic vegetables, expensive wine, imported cheese. His total came to over $100, and he paid with a credit card without even looking at the screen. Maya tried not to stare, but it was hard not to notice the difference between his full cart and her single pack of diapers. Alex started to get fussy, probably picking up on his mother's stress. Maya lifted him out of the cart and held him close, breathing in his sweet baby smell. He was her whole world, her reason for getting up every morning and trying again. She would figure this out somehow. She always did. The line moved slowly, and Maya found herself practicing what she would say to the cashier. She would pay for the diapers, take her receipt, and walk out with her head held high. Tomorrow she would call about the job at the grocery store across town. Maybe they would hire her. Maybe things would start looking up. But as she got closer to the front of the line, doubt crept in. What if her debit card was declined? What if the bank had charged her another overdraft fee and she didn't have enough money? What if she had to put the diapers back and walk out empty-handed? Maya closed her eyes for a moment, holding Alex a little tighter. She thought about her grandmother, who had raised 5 children during much harder times. "You're stronger than you know," she used to say, "and help comes when you need it most, sometimes from the most unexpected places." Maya didn't know what that meant then, but she was about to find out. The line moved forward, and it was almost her turn. She put Alex back in the cart and reached for her wallet, ready to face whatever came next. Sometimes life pushed you to the edge, but Maya had learned that the edge was also where miracles happened. Maya's heart pounded as she approached the checkout counter. The cashier, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and graying hair, smiled warmly at Alex, who was now chewing on his toy car. Her name tag read Linda, and she had the gentle manner of someone who had seen many struggling families come through her line. "Hello there, sweetie," Linda said to Alex, who giggled and waved his little hand. "And how are you doing today, Mama?" Maya managed a small smile. "We're doing okay, thank you." Behind her, the line was growing longer. A mother with 3 kids was juggling a crying baby while trying to keep her older children from running off. An elderly man leaned heavily on his cart, checking his grocery list one more time. Everyone seemed to be in a hurry, and Maya felt the pressure of holding them up. She placed the pack of diapers on the conveyor belt. Such a small purchase, but it represented everything she had left. Linda scanned the barcode in the register. "Beeped. $7.99, Linda announced. Maya nodded and pulled out her debit card. Her hands were shaking slightly, and she hoped Linda wouldn't notice. She had checked her account balance that morning on her phone, and it showed $8.47. But banks sometimes processed transactions at different times, and she prayed that nothing had gone through overnight. She inserted her card into the reader and waited. The machine seemed to take forever, making little beeping sounds as it processed the transaction. Maya held her breath. Alex reached for a candy bar on the display rack, and she gently moved his hand away. "No, baby, not today." The card reader beeped again, and Maya's stomach dropped. The screen flashed red, displaying the words she had been dreading. Transaction declined. Linda's expression softened with understanding. She had seen this scene play out many times before. "Would you like to try again? Sometimes the machine acts up." Maya nodded, even though she knew it wasn't the machine. She tried the card again, pressing the buttons carefully, entering her PIN with trembling fingers. The same red screen appeared. Transaction declined. "I'm sorry," Maya whispered, her cheeks burning with embarrassment. "Let me try to pay with cash." She pulled out her wallet again, counting the crumpled bills. $8.47. But the diapers cost $7.99, plus tax. She had forgotten about the tax. Her math had been wrong. Linda watched patiently as Maya counted the money twice, then 3 times. The people in line behind her were starting to shift restlessly. Someone coughed loudly. A child whined about wanting to go home. I think I'm about 50 cents short, Maya said quietly, her voice barely audible. Alex sensed something was wrong. He reached for his mother, making soft whimpering sounds. Maya picked him up, holding him close as she tried to figure out what to do. She could ask Linda to remove something from the purchase, but there was only one item. She could leave and come back when she had more money, but she didn't know when that would be. Can I maybe put back one of the smaller packs? Maya asked, though she knew the store didn't sell partial packs. Linda shook her head sympathetically. I'm sorry, honey, we can't break up the packages. Maya felt tears threatening to spill over. She was about to ask Linda to cancel the transaction when she heard a gentle voice behind her. Excuse me. She turned to see the well-dressed man from earlier, the one who had been buying expensive groceries. He was probably in his early 40s, with kind eyes and a patient expression. His clothes were clearly expensive, but he didn't seem pretentious or showy. There was something genuine about the way he spoke. I couldn't help but notice, he said quietly, stepping closer to the counter. I'd like to pay for this if that's... All right, Maya's face went hot with embarrassment. Oh no, I couldn't possibly ask you to do that. I'll figure something out. You're not asking, he said with a gentle smile. I'm offering, and I've been where you are before. The man pulled out his credit card, but Maya shook her head. Really, I appreciate it, but I can't accept charity from a stranger. It's not charity, he said simply. It's one parent helping another. I have a daughter about your son's age. I know how important these things are. Linda watched the exchange with interest. She had seen acts of kindness before, but there was something different about this man's approach. He wasn't trying to make a big show of it. He genuinely seemed to care. Look, the man continued, I'm not trying to make you uncomfortable, but I can see you're a good mother who's just going through a tough time. We all need help sometimes. Maya looked down at Alex, who was playing with her hair and babbling happily. He had no idea that his mother was struggling to provide for him. All he knew was that she loved him and took care of him. That's what mattered most. I promise I'll pay. You back? Maya said, though she wasn't sure how or when that would be possible. The man smiled. No need for that. Just promise me you'll help someone else when you're able to. He handed his card to Linda, who processed the payment quickly. While they waited, the man knelt down to Alex's level. Hey there, little guy, he said softly. Alex smiled and reached out to touch the man's watch, which was clearly expensive but well worn. He's beautiful, the man said to Maya. What's his name? Alex, Maya replied, still feeling overwhelmed by the stranger's kindness. That's a strong name. My daughter's name is Lily. She's 2 as well, going on 25 if you ask her. Maya managed a small laugh. Alex thinks he's much older than he is too. The transaction went through, and Linda handed Maya the receipt along with the bag of diapers. There you go, honey. You have a blessed day. As they walked away from the counter, the man handed Maya a business card. My name is David. I run a company here in town. If you're looking for work, give me a call. We might have something that would work for someone in your situation. Maya looked at the card. It was simple, elegant, with just a name and phone number. I don't understand. You don't even know me. I know you're a mother who would spend her last dollar on diapers for her child instead of food for herself, David said. That tells me everything I need to know about your character. Maya felt tears welling up in her eyes. Thank you. I don't know what else to say. You don't need to say anything. Just take care of that little boy and give me a call tomorrow if you're interested in hearing about a job opportunity. As David walked away, Maya stood there holding Alex and the bag of diapers, trying to process what had just happened. In her darkest moment, when she felt most alone and desperate, a complete stranger had stepped in to help. Not just with the diapers, but potentially with something much bigger. Linda waved goodbye as Maya headed toward the exit. You take care now, honey. And remember, there are still good people in this world. Walking to the bus stop, Maya looked at the business card again. She had been hurt so many times by people who promised things they didn't deliver, but something about David felt different. Maybe it was the way he had spoken to Alex or how he hadn't made a big show of helping. Maybe it was just hope talking, but for the first time in weeks, Maya felt like things might actually get better. Alex fell asleep in her arms on the bus ride home, clutching his toy car. Maya held him close and whispered, "Maybe things are going to be okay, baby." Maybe they really are. Maya spent the entire evening staring at David's business card. She had placed it on her small kitchen table, right next to the stack of unpaid bills and overdue notices. The card looked so clean and professional compared to everything else in her life. Just a simple white card with black lettering. David Chun, it read, followed by a phone number and an email address. Alex had gone to bed early, exhausted from their trip to the store. Maya sat in the quiet apartment, listening to the sounds of the city outside her window. Cars passing by, distant music from a neighbor's apartment, the hum of the old refrigerator that sometimes stopped working. She picked up the card again, turning it over in her hands. Who was David Chun? The name sounded familiar, but she couldn't place where she might have heard it before. Maya had never owned a computer, but she had an old smartphone that she used sparingly to save on data charges. She decided to look him up online. The search results made her heart skip a beat. David Chun wasn't just some businessman. He was the founder and CEO of Chin Technologies, a company that had started small but grown into something huge. The articles she found talked about his success story, his innovative products, and his company's rapid growth over the past 10 years. Maya scrolled through page after page of information. Forbes articles, business interviews, news stories about his company's latest projects. This man was worth millions of dollars, maybe more. What was someone like that doing shopping at a discount grocery store? And why had he helped her? She found a video interview from last year where David talked about his business philosophy. Maya watched it twice, studying his face, listening to his voice. He seemed genuine, talking about creating jobs and helping communities. But rich people always said the right things in interviews, didn't they? The more she read, the more confused she became. David Chun lived in a different world than she did. He had houses, cars, business deals worth more money than she could even imagine. Why would he care about a struggling single mother and her need for diapers? Maya's phone buzzed with a text from her landlord. Rent is due tomorrow. No more extensions. She stared at the message, feeling the familiar knot of anxiety in her stomach. She was already 2 weeks late, and Mr. Johnson had been patient, but his patience was running out. She looked at David's card again. Maybe this was all some kind of joke. Maybe he gave out fake business cards to make himself feel better about his wealth. Maybe he never expected her to actually call. Rich people probably did things like that all the time, making grand gestures that didn't cost them anything real. But then she remembered the way he had knelt down to talk to Alex, the kindness in his eyes when he looked at her son, the way he had handled the situation without making her feel small or pathetic. That couldn't have been fake, could it? Maya made herself a cup of tea with the last tea bag she had and sat down to think. She needed a job desperately. She had been applying everywhere, but most places wanted experience she didn't have or availability she couldn't provide. Single mothers with toddlers weren't exactly the ideal candidates most employers were looking for. The next morning, Maya woke up to Alex crying. He had wet through his diaper during the night, and she had to change his sheets. As she cleaned him up, she realized how precious those diapers David had bought really were. Without them, she would have been in serious trouble. After breakfast, which consisted of the last of the oatmeal and some crackers, Maya decided to call. Her hands shook as she dialed the number on the card. What if it was fake? What if David didn't remember her? What if this was all a mistake? The phone rang twice before a professional voice answered. Chun Technologies, this is Rebecca speaking. How may I help you? Maya's throat felt dry. Hi, I'm looking for David Chun. He gave me his card yesterday and told me to call about a job opportunity. Of course, are you Maya? Mr. Chun told me to expect your call. He's in meetings this morning, but he asked me to schedule you for coffee this afternoon if you're available. Would 2 o'clock work for you? Maya was shocked. David had actually told his assistant about her. This was real. Yes, that would be fine. Where should I meet him? Rebecca gave her the address of a small cafe downtown, not far from the bus line. Mr. Chun prefers to meet new people in comfortable settings rather than in the office. He'll be wearing a blue shirt and will probably be there a few minutes early. After hanging up, Maya stared at her phone in disbelief. She had a meeting with a millionaire in 4 hours. What was she going to wear? What would she say? She had no resume, no references, no experience with anything important. Maya spent the next hour going through her small closet. Most of her clothes were old, worn, or didn't fit properly anymore. She finally settled on a simple black dress that she had bought for a job interview months ago. It was nothing fancy, but it was clean and professional looking. She dropped Alex off at the neighbor's apartment. Mrs. Rodriguez was an elderly woman who sometimes watched him for free when Maya had job interviews. She understood the struggles of single motherhood, having raised 4 children on her own years ago. "You look nervous, Mia," Mrs. Rodriguez said as Maya handed over Alex's diaper bag. "This is a good thing, yes? This meeting?" "I hope so," Maya replied. "I really hope so." The bus ride downtown gave Maya time to think about what she wanted to say. She practiced introducing herself, explaining her situation, talking about her willingness to work hard. But every scenario she imagined in her head seemed inadequate. What could she possibly offer to a man who had everything? The cafe was small and cozy, with mismatched chairs and local artwork on the walls. Maya arrived 10 minutes early and ordered a glass of water, not wanting to spend money on coffee she couldn't afford. She chose a table near the window where she could watch for David. At exactly 2 o'clock, David walked in. He was wearing a blue button-down shirt, just as Rebecca had said, but he looked more relaxed than he had at the grocery store. He spotted Maya immediately and walked over with a smile. "Thank you for coming," he said, sitting down across from her. "I wasn't sure you would call." "I almost didn't," Maya admitted. "I looked you up online last night." "You're much more successful than I realized," David laughed. "Success is relative. I've been lucky, but I haven't forgotten where I came from." A waitress came over, and David ordered coffee for both of them despite Maya's protests. "Please," he said, "let me buy you coffee. After everything you've been through, it's the least I can do." As they waited for their drinks, David leaned forward. "I want to tell you something about myself, Maya, something that might help you understand why I approached you yesterday." Maya listened as David began to share his story. He had grown up in a small apartment not far from where she lived now. His mother had worked 2 jobs to support him and his younger sister. He remembered nights when there wasn't enough food, when his mother had to choose between paying for electricity or buying groceries. "I was 7 years old when I watched my mother count change at a grocery store, trying to figure out if she had enough money for milk," David said. "A stranger helped her that day, just like I helped you yesterday. I promised myself that if I ever had the chance, I would do the same for someone else." Maya felt tears welling up in her eyes. "I had no idea." "Most people don't," David said. "When you become successful, people assume you were always that way. They don't see the struggles that got you there." The waitress brought their coffee, and David continued his story. He talked about working multiple jobs to pay for college, about starting his first business in his mother's garage, about the failures and setbacks that had nearly broken him. Success hadn't come easily or quickly. "So when I see a mother doing everything she can to take care of her child, I see my own mother," David said, "and I see someone worth investing in." Maya wrapped her hands around her coffee cup, feeling the warmth spread through her fingers. "What kind of job are you offering?" David smiled. "That depends on what you're interested in. I need someone to help coordinate our community outreach programs. Someone who understands what it's like to struggle, who can identify families that really need help. It's not just about handing out money. It's about creating opportunities for people to build better lives." Maya's heart began to race. "I don't have any experience with that kind of work." "Experience isn't everything," David said. "Heart is more important." and you clearly have that. As they talked more, Maya began to understand that this wasn't just about charity. David was offering her a real job with real responsibilities and real pay. He wanted someone who could relate to the people they were trying to help, someone who understood the challenges of poverty and single parenthood. "I need to think about this," Maya said finally. "Of course," David replied. "Take all the time you need. But Maya, I want you to know something. Yesterday at the store, you helped me more than I helped you." Maya looked at him in confusion. "I don't understand." "You reminded me why I started this company in the first place. Success can make you forget where you came from. Meeting you reminded me of what really matters." As they prepared to leave, David handed her another card. "This has my direct number. On it, call me when you're ready to talk more, and Maya, whether you take this job or not, you're going to be okay. I can see that strength in you." Maya spent 3 sleepless nights thinking about David's offer. She would lie awake listening to Alex's peaceful breathing, staring at the ceiling and trying to figure out if this was too good to be true. Every voice in her head told her to be careful. She had been disappointed so many times before. On Thursday morning, she made her decision. She called David's direct number, the one he had written on the back of his business card. "Maya," David answered on the second ring. "I was hoping you'd call. I'd like to learn more about the job," she said, surprised by how steady her voice sounded. "Perfect. Can you come to the office tomorrow morning? I'd like you to meet the team and see what we're all about." Maya's stomach fluttered with nerves. "What should I wear?" "I don't have much in the way of professional clothes. Just be yourself," David said kindly. "We're not that formal here. What you wore to the cafe was perfect." The next morning, Maya took 2 buses to reach Chun Technologies. The building was modern and impressive, with glass walls and a fountain in the lobby. She felt completely out of place walking through the doors, but the receptionist greeted her warmly. "You must be Maya. Mr. Chun is expecting you." "I'm Jessica, and I'll take you up to meet him." The elevator ride to the 5th floor gave Maya a chance to look around. The building was nice but not show-offy. There were plants everywhere, comfortable seating areas, and photos of employees at various company events. It felt welcoming rather than intimidating. David met them at the elevator doors. "Maya, welcome to our chaos," he said with a grin. "Let me show you around." The office was buzzing with activity. People were talking animatedly about projects, typing furiously at computers, and moving between meeting rooms with purpose. But nobody seemed stressed or unhappy. Maya could hear laughter coming from different directions. "This is our development team," David explained as they walked past a room full of young people surrounded by multiple computer monitors. "They're working on an app that helps small businesses manage their finances." They passed a kitchen area where several employees were making coffee and chatting. A woman with short gray hair waved at David. "That's Linda," David said. "She runs our human resources department. She's been with us since we had 5 employees." Maya was surprised by how normal everything seemed. She had expected something more corporate, more intimidating. Instead, it felt like a group of friends working together toward common goals. "Now, let me show you what would be your area, David." Saad, leading her to a smaller office near the back of the building. The office had a desk, 2 chairs, and a window that looked out over the city. On the walls were photos of families, children, and community events. There was a whiteboard covered with notes and phone numbers. "This is where Rachel works," David explained. "She's been running our community outreach program for the past 2 years, but she's moving to California next month. Her husband got a job there." As if on cue, a woman in her early 30s appeared in the doorway. She had kind eyes and an easy smile that immediately put Maya at ease. "You must be Maya, Rachel." Saeed, extending her hand. "David told me about you." "I'm so glad you're interested in this position." Maya shook her hand, still feeling uncertain. "I'm not sure I'm qualified for this kind of work," Rachel laughed. "I wasn't either when I started. I had a degree in art history and had been working at a museum. But David saw something in me, just like he sees something in you. Over the next hour, Rachel explained what the job involved. A community outreach program helped families in crisis situations. They provided emergency financial assistance, helped people find jobs, connected families with resources like food banks and childcare, and worked with local organizations to create long-term solutions. The most important part of this job isn't having the right education or experience, Rachel said. It's understanding what people are going through. When a mother calls here because she can't pay her electric bill, she doesn't need someone who's going to judge her. She needs someone who gets it. Maya listened as Rachel told her about some of the families they had helped. A single father who had lost his job when his factory closed. A grandmother raising her grandchildren after her daughter went to prison. A family whose medical bills had driven them into debt. We don't just hand out money, Rachel explained. We try to help people solve the underlying problems. Sometimes that means helping them find better jobs. Sometimes it means connecting them with training programs or childcare assistance. Every situation is different. David had been quiet during most of the conversation, but now he spoke up. Maya, I want you to know that this isn't charity work. This is a real job with real responsibilities. You'd be managing a budget, working with other organizations, making decisions about how to help people. It's challenging work. Maya felt a flutter of excitement mixed with fear. What kind of salary are we talking about? Rachel and David exchanged glances. The position starts at $50,000 a year, David said. Plus full health benefits, paid vacation, and flexible hours for parents. Maya's eyes widened. That was more money than she had ever made in her life. More than she had dreamed of making. There's also money in the budget for you to take classes if you want to, Rachel added. Community college courses, workshops, anything that would help you do the job better. This seems too good to be true, Maya said honestly. David leaned forward. I know it does. But here's the thing, Mia. I've learned that the best employees aren't always the ones with the most impressive resumes. They're the ones who care about the work and are willing to learn, Rachel nodded. When I started, I made mistakes, big ones. But David and the team supported me, helped me learn, and gave me chances to grow. That's how this company works. Maya looked around the office again. What would happen to Alex? I mean, if he got sick, or if I had to leave early for some reason? We have an on-site daycare, David said. It's small, but it's run by a wonderful woman named Mrs. Patterson. She's been taking care of employees' children for years. Alex would be welcome there. Maya felt tears starting to form. You really thought of everything. We've had other single parents work here, Rachel said. We know what the challenges are. They spent another hour going over the details of the job. Maya would have 2 weeks to learn from Rachel before she left. She would work with a team of 3 other people who handled different aspects of the program. She would have access to training, resources, and support. Can I ask you something? Maya said to David. Why me? I mean, really. You could hire someone with experience, someone with a college degree. David was quiet for a moment. Do you know what I noticed about you at the grocery store? You weren't angry. You weren't blaming anyone else for your situation. You were just quietly trying to figure out how to take care of your son. That tells me more about your character than any resume could. Rachel gathered her things to leave. Mia, I hope you'll take this job. I think you'd be amazing at it. And I think you'd find it rewarding in ways you can't imagine. After Rachel left, David walked Maya back to the elevator. I don't need an answer right now, he said. Take the weekend to think about it. But I want you to know that if you decide to take this job, you'll have my full support. This company believes in investing in people. On the bus ride home, Maya felt like she was in a dream, a real job with benefits, with purpose. The chance to help other families who were struggling, the way she had been struggling. The opportunity to give Alex a better life. When she picked up Alex from Mrs. Rodriguez's apartment, the older woman immediately noticed the change in her expression. Something good happened today, Mrs. Rodriguez said. I can see it in your eyes. Maya hugged Alex close. "I think our luck might be changing, Neo," she whispered to him that night. After Alex was asleep, Maya sat at her kitchen table and made a list of pros and cons, but deep down, she already knew what her answer would be. This was the chance she had been waiting for, the opportunity to build a real future for herself and her son. On Monday morning, she would call David and accept the job. For the first time in months, Maya fell asleep easily, dreaming of possibilities instead of worries. 6 months later, Maya stood in her new apartment, watching Alex play with his toys in the spacious living room. The afternoon sun streamed through clean windows, lighting up the hardwood floors she had only dreamed of before. She could hardly believe this was her life now. The apartment had 2 bedrooms, a real kitchen with appliances that actually worked, and a bathroom with a bathtub where Alex could splash around during bath time. Maya had her own bedroom for the first time in years, and Alex had his own space filled with books, toys, and a toddler bed shaped like a race car. "Mama, look," Alex called out, holding up a puzzle piece. He had grown so much in the past 6 months. His vocabulary had exploded, and he was more confident and happy than Maya had ever seen him. "That's wonderful, baby," Maya said, kneeling down to help him with the puzzle. "You're getting so smart." The job at Chun Technologies had been everything David had promised and more. Maya had thrown herself into the work with a passion she didn't know she possessed. Learning from Rachel had been incredible. The older woman had become not just a mentor, but a genuine friend who still called Maya regularly from California to check in. Maya's first week had been overwhelming. She had felt like she was drowning in information about programs, policies, and procedures, but the team had been patient and supportive. Linda from HR had given her a crash course in office basics. The other outreach coordinators had shared their experiences and tips. Her first case had been a family of 5 living in their car after an eviction. Maya had spent hours on the phone, connecting them with emergency housing, helping the father find work, and getting the children enrolled in school. When she saw the family settled into their new apartment a month later, she understood why David had chosen this work. "Every family we help is a victory," David had told her during one of their weekly check-ins. "You're changing lives, Maya. Never forget that." The work wasn't always easy. Maya dealt with heartbreaking situations daily. Families facing eviction, parents choosing between medicine and food, children going without basic necessities. But she had learned to balance compassion with practicality, to offer hope along with help. What surprised Maya most was how much she had grown personally. The scared, uncertain woman who had counted change in a grocery store was gone. In her place was someone confident, capable, and respected. She had opinions now, ideas about how to improve programs and reach more families. David and the team listened to her suggestions and often implemented them. Maya had also started taking classes at the community college. 2 nights a week she studied business administration while Alex played happily in the company daycare with Mrs. Patterson. David had been right about the flexible schedule. When Alex was sick or needed her, the job came second, and nobody made her feel guilty about it. The transformation hadn't just been professional. Maya had friends now, real friendships with her coworkers. She had been invited to birthday parties, holiday gatherings, and casual dinners. For the first time since Alex was born, she felt like she belonged somewhere. Her phone buzzed with a text from David. "Don't forget about tonight's fundraiser. Looking forward to your speech." Maya's stomach did a little flip. Tonight was the annual fundraiser for the community outreach program, and she was giving a speech about her experience. David had asked her to share her story, to help donors understand the real impact of their contributions. The event was being held at a fancy hotel downtown. Maya had bought her first nice dress with her own money, something she never thought she would be able to do. It was simple but elegant, navy blue with a modest neckline. She had practiced her speech dozens of times, but she was still nervous. "Alex, we need to get ready for our big night," Maya said. Turning off the television. Alex was staying with Mrs. Rodriguez during the event. The older woman had become like a grandmother to him, and he loved spending time at her apartment. Maya had been able to pay her for babysitting now, but Mrs. Rodriguez often refused the money. You helped me too, Mia, she had said just last week. Having Alex around makes me feel young again. Maya got Alex ready first, packing his overnight bag, with his favorite stuffed animal and the book he insisted on hearing every night. Then she took a long shower, something she never took for granted anymore. Hot water whenever she wanted, it was still a luxury in her mind. As she got dressed, Maya looked at herself in the bedroom mirror. She looked different now, healthier, more confident, more at peace. The constant worry lines around her eyes had faded. She smiled more often, laughed more easily. The fundraiser was already in full swing when Maya arrived. The hotel ballroom was decorated with elegant centerpieces and soft lighting. Well-dressed people mingled, holding drinks and talking in small groups. Maya recognized some faces from the company, but many others were strangers. David spotted her immediately and walked over with a warm smile. Maya, you look beautiful. Are you ready for this? As ready as I'll ever be, Maya replied. Accepting a glass of water from a passing waiter, the evening began with dinner and updates about the program's successes over the past year. Maya had helped coordinate many of the cases being discussed, and she felt a deep sense of pride listening to the numbers. 47 families had been helped with emergency housing. 63 people had been connected with job training programs. Over 200 children had received school supplies and clothing, but Maya knew that behind every number was a real person with a real story, like the single father who had been laid off from his construction job and was now working as a supervisor at a different company, or the grandmother who had been struggling to raise her 2 grandsons and now had them in a stable home with after-school programs. When David introduced her, Maya felt her heart racing. She walked to the podium, looking out at the crowd of faces, all focused on her. 6 months ago, she would have been terrified. Tonight, she felt nervous but determined. Good evening, everyone, she began, her voice steady. My name is Maya, and I want to tell you about the worst day of my life and how it became the beginning of the best chapter of my life. She told them about standing in that grocery store, counting her last few dollars trying to buy diapers. For Alex, she talked about the shame and fear she had felt, the uncertainty about their future. She described David's kindness and how it had changed everything. But here's what I want you to understand, Maya continued, feeling more confident with each word. David didn't just help me that day. He saw potential in me that I didn't even know existed. He offered me not just a job, but a chance to rebuild my life and help others do the same. The room was completely quiet now, everyone hanging on her words. In the past 6 months, I've helped dozens of families who were exactly where I was. Scared, desperate, but not defeated. And I've learned something important. Sometimes people don't need charity. They need opportunity. They need someone to believe in them. Maya shared stories about the families she had helped, being careful to protect their privacy, but illustrating the impact of the program. She talked about the father who had started his own small business with a microloan, the mother who had gotten her GED and was now training to be a nurse, the teenager who had received a scholarship to college. Every single one of these families had potential, Maya said. They just needed someone to see it and provide the right kind of help at the right time. As she concluded her speech, Maya looked directly at David. I want to thank David and Chun Technologies for seeing that potential in me. But more than that, I want to thank you all for supporting a program that changes lives in real, lasting ways. The applause was thunderous. People stood up, clapping enthusiastically. Maya saw tears in several eyes, including David's. As she walked back to her table, people stopped her to shake her hand, to tell her how moving her speech had been. The fundraiser raised over $150,000 that night, far exceeding their goal. But for Maya, the real victory was being able to stand in front of that crowd and tell her story with pride instead of shame. Later that evening, as Maya was saying goodbye to colleagues and donors, David pulled her aside. Maya, that was incredible. You've become an amazing advocate for this program. I learned from the best, Maya replied. David, I need to ask you something. That day in the grocery store, did you know it would lead to all this? David smiled. I hoped it would. I saw something in you that day, Maya. Strength, dignity, love for your son. Those are the qualities that make someone successful, not degrees or connections. Maya hugged him. Thank you for seeing something in me that I couldn't see in myself. Driving home in the used car she had been able to buy with her first bonus, Maya thought about how much her life had changed. Tomorrow she would wake up in her own apartment, get Alex ready for daycare, and go to a job she loved. She would help families find hope in their darkest moments, just like someone had done for her, but tonight she would pick up her sleeping son from Mrs. Rodriguez's apartment, carry him to his own bed in his own room, and tuck him in knowing that their future was bright and full of possibilities. Maya had learned that sometimes the worst moments in life are actually doorways to the best ones. All you need is someone willing to hold the door open and believe you deserve to walk through it.